Gita summarized. We heard Arjuna, and he's basically defeats what he is.
Okay, great. I'm sure what you said was really nice, but somehow the technology just stopped working there. I don't know what happened.
Oh, was I muted?
No, it's just
Breaking up.
you get to live on Krishna Road, but that's one of the
Oh,
drawbacks.
yeah, I get to live on Krishna Road with 1 bar of connectivity.
Yeah. Phone, or are you on the dial-up?
I just have my phone. That's the only internet that I have, period. I can't even get satellite here.
Yeah. All right. All right. Well, thank you for your summarization of the contents of the Gita summarized. We made it halfway through and explained, well, let's see. Oh, I need to make a list. Heather, you go ahead and read text 39. Are you ready?
Yeah. Text 39. Thus far, I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as I explain in terms of working without fruitive results, O son of Partha. When you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from bondage of words.
Okay, so he's been explaining analytical study. I've described this knowledge, Aishate Bihite Sankhya. So this knowledge, we're talking about a specific kind of knowledge. When did he talk about knowledge? When did he say this knowledge? How come all of a sudden we're using this word, this knowledge? As if there's like some current of information that's coming through, something specific. I'm just as puzzled as you are, unless Eric's ready with an answer.
Oh, well, the way I kind of saw it was that Krishna kind of gave 2 lines of reasoning as to why Arjuna should engage in battle. And one of I guess the primary one that most of the previous verses were centered on was the differentiation between matter and spirit. So like that, like the word, like I think in that verse that was just read, like Samkhya, like the analytical study, like that branch of like Vedic philosophy that that's supposed to understand like what is Prakriti, what is Purusha, the difference between the two. So that seemed to be covered very thoroughly in the previous verses. So
Okay, yeah. But now he's saying, I have described this knowledge to you in the way that you just described. Now I'm going to continue with that same knowledge. As I explain it in terms of working without fruitive results. But he's going to be explaining the same knowledge, but putting some action behind it. Here's how you activate it. Okay, maybe I'm making too much of an issue out of one word that's used twice, though, in the verse. This knowledge. Maybe we should read this purport, since I brought up the question. Let's go, the order will be Elijah, Garrison, Eric, Matthew. Go ahead, Elijah. Start the purport.
According to the
Nirukti.
Nirukti, or the Vedic dictionary, Sankhya means that which describes things in detail. And Sankhya refers to that philosophy which describes the real nature of the soul. And yoga involves controlling the senses.
Is it me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Arjuna's proposal not to fight was based on sense gratification. Forgetting his prime duty, he wanted to cease fighting because he thought that by not killing his relatives and kinsmen, he would be happier than by enjoying the kingdom after conquering his cousins, the sons of Dhritarashtra.
In both ways, the basic principles were for sense gratification. Happiness derived from conquering them and happiness derived by seeing kinsmen alive are both on the basis of personal sense gratification, even at a sacrifice of wisdom and duty.
Krishna therefore wanted to explain to Arjuna that by killing the body of his grandfather, he would not be killing the soul proper. And he explained that all individual persons, including the Lord himself, are eternal individuals. They were individuals in the past, they are individuals in the present, and they will continue to remain individuals in the future, because all of us are individual souls eternally. We simply change our bodily dress in different manners, but actually we keep our individuality even after liberation from the bondage of material dress.
Heather. Oh no.
An analytical study of, can you not hear me?
Now we hear you.
Okay. An analytical study of the soul and the body has been
No, she's frozen in space.
very, very graphically. Listen.
All right, I'll read it. An analytical study of the soul and the body has been very graphically explained by Lord Krishna. And this descriptive knowledge of the soul and the body from different angles of vision has been described here as Sankhya in terms of the Nirukti dictionary. Okay. Stay with us. Eventually, I know it'll come back. We'll give you a chance. Go ahead, Elijah.
This Samkhya has nothing to do with the Samkhya philosophy of the atheist Kapila. Yeah. Long before the impostor of Kapila's Sankhya, the Sankhya philosophy was expounded in the Srimad Bhagavatam by the true Lord Krishna, the incarnation. Lord Kapila, the incarnation of Lord Krishna, who explained it to his mother Devanti.
It is clearly explained by him that the Purusha, or the Supreme Lord, is active and that he creates by looking over the Prakriti. This is accepted in the Vedas and in the Gita.
The description in the Vedas indicates that the Lord glanced over the Prakriti or nature and impregnated it with atomic individual souls. All these individuals are working in the material world for sense gratification, and under the spell of material energy, they are thinking of being enjoyers.
This mentality is dragged to the last point of liberation when the living entity wants to become one with the Lord. This is the last snare of Maya, or sense gratificatory illusion. And it is only after many, many births of such sense gratificatory activities that a great soul surrenders unto Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, thereby fulfilling the search after the ultimate truth.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, try it out.
Arjuna has already accepted Krishna as his spiritual master by surrendering himself unto him. I'm sorry, I can't read the Sanskrit. Consequently, Krishna will now tell him about the working process in Buddha Yoga or Karma Yoga, or in other words, the practice of devotional service, only for sense gratification of the Lord.
This Buddha Yoga is clearly explained in chapter 10, verse 10, as being direct communion with the Lord, who is sitting as Paramatma in everyone's heart. But such communion does not take place without devotional service.
Okay, Eric, is that the verse that you learned?
Oh. Oh yeah. Wait, you want me to repeat it now, or
See what you can remember from it.
Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti porvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yenamam upayamti. Wait,
Yeah, that was
that last.
good. Everyone give him some finger snaps. It was good. He did his homework. Do you remember the translation at all?
Um, let's see. One who is constantly engaged in my loving. Let's see. For one who is constantly engaged in my loving devotional service, I give to them the intelligence by which they can come to me. Is that kind of it?
Right. More finger snaps. Come on, that's good. Give it up for him. Come on, Elijah. Show him some
Huh?
love. He did good.
Oh,
Yeah, there you go. And look at his shirt. What kind of shirt are you modeling today? What band are you?
Oh, it's my friend from Texas's band, Counterblast. They're a Krishna conscious hardcore band.
Krishna
Um,
Core.
yeah, they're named after a phrase Srila Prabhupada used in an old Back to Godhead magazine about, I think Prabhupada called the bringing of the Harinam Sankirtan movement to the West as the counterblast against the material mainstream culture of the West or something.
Okay. I see where it says counterblast. Supposed to say underneath.
Krishna core.
Oh, okay. Good job. Every day he's got a different T-shirt on. I'm wearing mine. It's generic. You can just fill in anything on it. It's the right color too for hardcore people. So who read those last two sentences that prompted this? I think it was
I
Helen
did.
or Elijah.
Yes.
Okay. Where is it? Where did it go? Oh, this Buddha yoga is clearly explained in chapter 10. That was the sentence I was thinking of.
Verse 10.
Yeah, go ahead and read it.
This video is clearly explained in chapter 10. Verse 10 is being direct communion with the Lord, who is sitting with Paramata in everyone's heart.
Okay. Then the next sentence, but such communion does not take place without devotional service. So that's what the verse says, Tesham satata yuktanam. Those who are engaged in devotional service, Krishna gives intelligence so that they can come to him. After you learn a few verses, you'll find that in Prabhupada's purports, just about everything he says is paraphrasing a verse from somewhere. And it's fun once you start learning the verses and you can find what they are. Okay, Garrison, are you ready? Do you know where we
Yeah.
are?
One who is therefore situated in devotional or transcendental loving service to the Lord, or in other words, in Krishna consciousness, attains to this stage of Buddha Yoga by the special grace of the Lord. The Lord says, therefore, that only to those who are always engaged in devotional service out of transcendental love does he award the pure knowledge of devotion and love.
In that way, the devotee can reach him easily in the ever blissful kingdom of God. Thus, the Buddha Yoga mentioned in this verse is the devotional service of the Lord, and the word Samkhya mentioned herein has nothing to do with the atheistic Samkhya Yoga enunciated by the impostor Kapila.
Okay, I'm glad we're reading this purport because as you read on, if you just read the verses and you look at the Sanskrit, Prabhupada oftentimes it says, by engaging in devotional service, you get this. But in the Sanskrit, it's saying Buddha Yogam. And some people will look at it and say, what's he doing? He's like twisting out a different meaning. So here it shows how he's arriving at that. He's saying, look, the same word, Buddha Yogam, is used in chapter 10, text 10, as Eric has quoted, Dadami Buddha Yogam Tam. I give Buddha Yoga to people who are engaged in bhakti. Bhajatam priti purvakam. So bhajatam means to worship. Priti means with love. Okay, go ahead. I think it's Matthew.
One should not therefore misunderstand that the Sankhya Yoga mentioned herein has any connection with the atheistic Sankhya, nor did that philosophy have any influence during that time, nor would Lord Krishna care to mention such godless philosophical speculations.
Heather. Real Sankhya philosophy is described by Lord Kapila in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But even that Sankhya has nothing to do with the current topics. Here,
Here's some.
Sankhya,
Go ahead.
here Sankhya means analytical description of the body and the soul.
Lord Krishna made an analytical description of the soul to bring Arjuna to the point of Buddha Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, Lord Krishna's Sakya and Lord Kapila, can I say that?
Kapila.
Kapila Sakya, as described in the Bhagavatam, are one and the same.
Garrison.
They're all bhakti yoga. Lord Krishna said, therefore, that only the less intelligent class of men make a distinction between Sankhya Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Sankhya Yoga pritagbala pravadanti na panditaha.
Oh, I think that's going to be in either chapter 3 or chapter 5.
That verse.
Yeah, that he's referring to. That one who applies himself well to one path achieves the results of both.
Of course, atheistic Sankhya Yoga has nothing to do with Bhakti Yoga, yet the unintelligent claim that the atheistic Sankhya Yoga is referred to in the Bhagavad Gita.
One should therefore understand that Buddhi Yoga means to work in Krishna consciousness in the full bliss and knowledge of devotional service. One who works for the satisfaction of the Lord only, however difficult such work may be, is working under the principles of Buddhi Yoga and finds himself always in transcendental bliss.
By such transcendental engagement, one achieves all transcendental understanding automatically by the grace of the Lord, and thus his liberation is complete in itself without his making extraneous endeavors to acquire knowledge. There is much difference between work in Krishna consciousness and work for fruitive results, especially in the matter of sense gratification, for achieving results in terms of family or material happiness.
Buddhi Yoga is therefore the transcendental quality of the work that we perform.
Okay, we just read a big chunk of purport there. There's a lot packed in there. Anyone want to recap something that they saw or some little nugget or?
I was thinking about how it's confusing in the when you study, general Vedic philosophy, because like they're saying here, the word Sankhya Yoga can mean different philosophies even that could be atheistic, and things get misrepresented. So when you study the broader picture, it can be confusing sometimes.
Yeah, and the same Sankhya, the same name Sankhya means different things. And there are two people with the same name that are teachers of Sankhya. So yeah, he's just really hammering that down. How many times did he say that in here? Like 8 or 9
Yeah.
times. So we're not talking about the same Sankhya that was propounded by Kapila, the atheist. Now there is a real Kapila, and that is Krishna himself, the incarnation of Lord Krishna. And then Krishna here is not referring to the atheist Kapila. He says it like, yeah, it's like 8 or 9 times. He just wants to make that clear. So I don't think anybody here has anything to do with the atheistic Kapila philosophy. This is one of the six main, they call it the darshans, the six philosophical systems of India, Indian philosophers. Um, let's see, there's the Mimamsakas. Anyone know any of the others? Yeah,
Vedanta?
Vedantists. I think that's outside of that, and I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe it could be. You caught me. Patanjali is one of them. Who? What does Patanjali teach from? Who knows? Everybody knows this
Yoga
one.
Sutras.
Yep, the Yoga Sutras. Patanjali, the Mimamsas, the Sankhya. Okay, we're halfway there, and maybe Vedanta, the Vedantists, but I think that's a separate category. I could be wrong. Okay, text 40, another powerful one. Whose turn? Heather just read. Elijah.
Yeah.
No, Heather only got one sentence, so she gets to read
Okay.
this first. Oh no, we've lost her. She's fallen into the deep darkness. Yeah. I'll fill in. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. We read the purport to this last time through. You remember anything from that, Matthew? No. We've spent a pretty good time on this purport.
You have a good memory.
Were you there with us on that one?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Let's read like 4 or 5 sentences into it. Let's see. Elijah, go ahead. Start on purport.
Activity in Krishna consciousness or acting for the benefit of Krishna without expectation of sense gratification is the highest transcendental quality of work. Even a small beginning of such activity finds no impediment, nor can that small beginning be lost at any stage.
Go ahead, Garrison.
I got lost.
Purport to 40. Any work begun on the material plane
Okay,
has
any
to
work
be
begun on the
completed.
material plane has to be completed. Otherwise, the whole attempt becomes a failure. But any work begun in Krishna consciousness has a permanent effect, even though not finished.
The performer of such work is therefore not at a loss, even if his work in Krishna consciousness is incomplete. 1% done in Krishna consciousness bears permanent results, so that the next beginning is from the point of 2%, whereas in material activity without 100% success, there is no profit.
Ajamila performed his duty in some percentage of Krishna consciousness, but the result he enjoyed at the end was 100% by the grace of the Lord. There is a nice verse in this connection in Srimad Bhagavatam.
Okay, we'll pause there. I remember, Eric, were you with us last time we read this chapter?
I don't think so, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I actually read that exact same sentence and the Sanskrit verse last time.
Oh, really? We ended up talking about Ajamil and the story of Ajamil and how when you engage in Krishna consciousness, nothing ever gets lost. And Ajamil, he started off doing pretty good, but then he just kind of fell off into some really bad habits. It was really bad. It was awful. And he ended up killing people and stealing stuff. And yeah, he left his parents behind and just really nasty things. There's all kinds of details you can get into, but
That's where the Harmony Collective is in the Bhagavatam right now, Prabhu.
oh, okay.
We're just on the verses describing Ajamil providing for his prostitute household.
Okay. Yeah, he just happened to see a couple out in the woods um, going at it. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, such a view, a vision is very common in Kali Yuga in America. And how can one not get bewildered by that and carried away? So Ajamil tried to give up the thought, but he couldn't. And he ended up taking on a prostitute, and to support her, he was just going and getting money any old way. But later on in life, he had a child, named that child Narayan, which is one of the names of Lord Vishnu. And the Yamadutas were approaching him. The big, hairy, scary guys coming to take you out of your body at the time of death. He was really scared, and when he freaked out, he just called out the name of his son. Immediately, the Vishnu Dutas appeared. The messengers of Lord Vishnu came and said, wait a minute, you can't take this guy. He's ours. He called out the name of Lord Vishnu in complete distress, not desiring any material sense gratification. I think that was qualification here at the beginning of the purport. I mean, yeah. Activity in Krishna consciousness, or acting for the benefit of Krishna without expectation of sense gratification, is the highest transcendental quality of work. So he was calling out the name of Krishna without expecting like any kind of sense gratification from it. He wasn't even calling it out like, protect me. He was just, I love my son and I've named him Narayan, and I'm calling out the name of my son in love and fear and helplessness. And that was enough. Krishna said, go help that guy. And the Vishnu Dutas, they didn't even need Krishna to tell them that. They were like, oh, this one's ours. We're taking him. So Ajamil watched them have this discussion, and they went back and forth. What is Dharma? What is the fate of this guy? The Vishnu Dutas were clearly stronger than the Yamadutas. And so Ajamil was saved, and he had the opportunity to practice bhakti yoga further in his life. And so he did that, and then at the end, he saw the Vishnu Dutas come to him, this time in an airplane, and they said, come on, step on board, we're taking you home. It's a nice painting in the 6th canto. Also in that 6th canto is a painting of the Yamadutas coming after him. And devotees, we had a big printing of those 6 cantos. Prabhupada asked that we always have 6 canto part 1, all of the 1st canto, 1, 2, and 3. It was printed in 3 volumes, and the 2nd canto in the 1st volume. So those, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, those 5 books were always in print in large quantities. And so we had a lot of 6th canto part 1. The devotee was selling those in the airport. He stopped somebody who looked at the back of the back cover of the book with the Yamadutas on it. And this guy's face just went white. And he just handed the book back, and he just walked away. And the devotee said, wait a minute, what's up? What's going on? And he said, I saw those guys. He went through some near-death experience. He saw those guys and said, I don't want to see him again. The devotee said, no, you need this book. This book will help you learn how to deal with them. But the guy was like really shaken up, and the devotee just said, here, just take it, have it. So That was way back years ago. And just recently I heard, let's see, this devotee who works as a chaplain in the hospitals in New York, and he's dealing with a lot of people. I heard this on the show, Raghunath's show. Did you hear that one, Eric, when they interviewed that chaplain, that devotee?
That sounds familiar.
Johnny
If it's on-
Sham.
Ganesham, yeah. Oh, you heard it too. Okay. You want to tell the story, Heather?
I mean, you could tell the story. You just told a really nice story. My microphone keeps going out.
Yeah, we want to hear from you though.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay.
So he
Oh.
told a very good story. Go out.
Oh no.
Oh, you'll have to tell the story.
Yeah, you just butt in.
Sorry.
You butt in when you can. Let's see. As a chaplain, he got a request from someone who was a Catholic, and he asked her, like, what's the deal? Why are you calling me in? Because I'm a Hindu chaplain. Are you okay? Is there something that you need that you're not getting from your own people? And she said, yes. I saw these people, and she described the Yamadutas. And he said, okay, all right. So they came to you, they threatened you, but then they left you alone. So they didn't take you away. So that's a good thing. God is giving you another chance. You got a little warning. And she said, yeah, but that's the thing I don't get. Throughout my whole life, I've loved everyone, haven't hated anyone, haven't done anything sinful. What would they be punishing me for? I don't get it. And he said, yeah, it's like that sometimes, but you've got a little time here sitting in your hospital bed. Just give some thought on it. So this devotee, he's Ganesham, he's kind of young. He must be like in his early 30s. And he talked to another chaplain in the hospital who had been at it for a long time, 50 or 60 years. This guy had been a chaplain. He told him about the Yamadutas and said, yeah, this woman had this vision. And the chaplain said, oh, those guys, I really believe they exist. I've heard about them from so many people.
Oh my God.
This guy's been at it for a long time. He was like, yeah, they must exist. I hear that so often. Okay, so anyway, Prabhupada brought it up in the purport here. The verse is, in this endeavor, there's no loss or diminution. Little advancement on the path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. So just take it up, take it as far as we can, and let's move on to the next verse. This, I was about to say, in the Bhagavad Gita, about 1/3 of the verses, maybe 1/3, 1/4 are like things that you memorize, and Prabhupada quotes them again and again, over and over. There's a lot of other verses that are kind of like building up to those verses. I just wanted to point out, this is one of the verses that he quotes a lot. The next one is 2. And the next one is 2. So whose turn is it? I'm sorry, I just talked on. Oh, Matthew left off. So Heather, your turn. Let's try it again. Read text 41, the translation.
Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute, I can't say that word, in many branches.
Irresolute.
Irresolute.
Yeah. And oh man, this report is so good. We got to read this one. I don't care if we don't make it through tonight. We're gonna do this report. Go ahead, Elijah.
Faith means something.
Text 41.
Oh, sorry. Those who are on this path are resolute. Oh wait, am I reading the?
The purport.
Okay. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relationship to the material world with obligations to family traditions, husband, humanity, or nationality.
Okay, Garrison, go ahead. Start at the top there.
Strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life is called Vyavasatmika intelligence. The Chaitanya Charitamrita states, Shraddha Shabde Vishvasakahe Shrudrida Nishchaya Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarva Karma Krita Hoya. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime.
Go ahead, Eric.
When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relationship to the material world with obligations to family traditions, humanity, or nationality. Fruitive activities are the engagements of one's reactions from past good or bad deeds.
When one is awake in Krishna consciousness, he need no longer endeavor for good results in his activities. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, all activities are on the absolute plane, for they are no longer subject to dualities like good and bad.
The highest perfection of Krishna consciousness in renunciation of the material conception of life. This state is automatically achieved by progressive Krishna consciousness.
Okay, we'll pause there.
Sorry, I screwed that up.
Yeah, it's fine. It was good. We got to read the best part twice that way. So the verse is saying, even if you screw things up, if you're on this path, you're resolute in purpose and your aim is one. And the last verse said, you got nothing to fear. There's no loss or diminution. Everything is good. I find these to be really helpful, and I really like this quote from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Shraddha Shabde. Shraddha is the faith that by engaging in Krishna Bhakti Kayale, by engaging in Krishna Bhakti, Sarva Karma Kritahai, everything will be done. So Prabhupada's using that as an example how to understand this verse. When you really have that belief, by serving Krishna, I'm going to get everything that I need. I don't need to worry about anything else. So it sounds kind of extreme, a little bit fanatical, and impractical too, in some ways. But like you got your job to do and meals to cook and floors to sweep. But if you do all of those in service to Krishna, that's what he's getting at in the rest of the purport is you have to do this under the guidance of a spiritual master who teaches you what to do. And then he breaks into satisfying the guru is what's going to move you along. Speaking of moving along, we're going to have to start reading a lot of verses. Let's see, Heather. So Elijah, go ahead. Text 42 and 43.
Okay. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there's nothing more than this.
Okay, next verse. We're gonna move quick now. Garrison.
Okay. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place.
The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self.
All purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them.
You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the result of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty.
Four things there. And it's hard to hold all four of those together in the same thought. You have a right to work, but you're not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. It's a big challenge. This is another important verse. Okay, go ahead, Elijah, 48.
Perform your duty equipoise, Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga.
O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers.
A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions even in this life. Therefore strive for yoga, which is the art of all work.
By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death, and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead.
When your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard.
When your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, you will have attained the divine consciousness.
Arjuna said, O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak, and what is his language? How does he sit, and how does he walk?
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind thus purified finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness.
One who is not disturbed in mind, even amid the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind.
In the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge.
One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell, is firmly fixed in the perfect consciousness.
Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness.
The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them.
One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence.
While contemplating the object of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment lust develops, and from lust anger arises.
From anger, complete delusion arises. From delusion, bewilderment of memory. Memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool.
But a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord.
Okay, let's pause here. Boy, that was hard to just read through all those without stopping. So many of them are big, important ones. Anyone have something they want to point out from what we just read? We covered a lot. We read about the tortoise. We read about the dense forests of delusion, the flowery words of the Vedas, contemplating the objects of the senses. Yeah, Eric?
Oh, I was gonna say, let's see. I think verse 56 was one that I feel like is pretty important amongst. Well, they're all important, but I mean, as Krishna is sort of explaining the qualities of like what Arjuna was asking, the symptoms of one whose consciousness is merged in transcendence.
Oh, yeah. It's got that Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha phrase in it. That shows up in a few places in the Gita. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger. All right, so what did you see in this? How?
Well, I think let's see, the first part of it, especially where it talks about one who is not disturbed in mind even amidst the threefold miseries, or is elated when there is happiness. Basically, just like this idea of becoming detached from mundane pleasure and pain, like the dualities of the material world, which like are kind of two sides of the same coin that keep us, you know, trapped in suffering and material life. So I think the point of trying to see something beyond that and becoming free from both of those is a really important thing that always stands out to me when I read this verse or this chapter particularly.
Yep. That was a good choice. Good choice of verses. It would be hard to make a bad choice of verses in this chapter. There aren't any. That's why it's so hard to just zip through it. But that's what we're doing. Anything else? Anybody?
When I
Hi,
read
Krishna,
text,
everybody.
Oh, Laura. Hey, Laura.
Hey, sorry I joined so late.
Okay, we'll let you in. We're in chapter 2, and we read up to, we're about to read text 65, but we're just kind of pausing and going over what we've covered.
I like to, or well, I mean, like you said, all of the verses are good, but 62, I like how it kind of gives a direction of how the senses form a attachment, and then from attachment lust comes, and then from lust anger comes. So it like kind of gives a prequel to like, hey, don't just like kind of cut it at the start, then you don't have to deal with all the drama.
Yeah. That is a good series. And actually, I remember the first time I read Bhagavad Gita, when I read that, it was like, oh, now we're getting somewhere. Now here's something I can understand. And I also see, when I read that section to brand new people, I see the recognition in their eyes, or their heads are nodding. Yep, I've done that. Everybody gets it. So we really connect with it. Let's see. And then the verse that comes right after it is good. Let's see. Where'd it go? What was the verse again that you
That
pointed
was
out?
verse 62. So the one after it would be 63. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, the intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool.
Yep. And then look at the next one, 64, where Prabhupada says, a person free from all attachment, well, Krishna says, a person free from all attachment and aversion, which is Eric's favorite topic, and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom, can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. Prasadam adhigacchati. So it's got the word prasadam in it, which we like prasadam. Prasadam means mercy. And we can get the mercy by practicing with detachment. Let's see, raga dvesha, vimuktais too, being freed from both attachment and aversion. We control our senses and then we act in proper ways, then we can get that prasad. Then the next verse, 65, Prabhupada would recite this verse before taking prasad, because it also has the word prasad in it. Prasade sarvatukanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryava tishtate. So when thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. So when you get the prasad of Krishna, the threefold miseries of material existence are gone. Hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu. So very quickly you become happy. Buddhi paryava tishtati. Okay, good job. So we're like a bunch of West Virginia miners down exploring deep within Bhagavad Gita and trying to bring out a big carload of jewels and stuff. So that's what y'all doing here. That's your job. There's no loss or diminution. So make sure you bring something home every day after from the reading. Oh boy, we got some really good stuff coming up. Who read the last verse? Where did we stop?
I think we're on 66.
Okay. And whose turn is it, Heather? You're our
I
secretary.
don't know whose turn it is.
I'll read.
Okay. I was going to suggest just let Elijah start it off.
What is not connected with the Supreme? Excuse me. What is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace?
Good question. Ashantasya kutam kutas sukham. So it's a question. Kuta means where. If you're not peaceful, where are you going to be? Where are you going to find happiness? So how do you find peace, first of all? What did it say?
Connecting with Krishna, the Supreme.
Yeah. Being connected. Without being connected, there's no possibility of peace. Okay. Elijah Garrison, go ahead. Next verse.
As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence.
Therefore, O mighty armed, one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence.
What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled, and the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage.
All right. So this one we always got to pause on. Who got it? Who knows what's being said here?
Basically, Brahmins, when saintly people are awake, sinful people are sleeping, and when sinful people are sleeping, saintly people are awake. So why it's suggested that we do our sadhana in the morning, and why wild and crazy parties happen after dark.
Okay, so that's there, but it does have more to it. There's another level to what's being said there. That's certainly true. Anyone else? It's just that in activities that would be interesting to use Heather's language, sinful people or materialistic people, they would be interested in certain activities, but progressive spiritualists would have no interest in them, and vice versa. A place where spiritually minded people would be interested, materialistic people would be like, this is like nighttime, forget it. Got no interest here. And Laura, are you ready? Are you ready to read text 69 or 70? Laura, your microphone is muted. Maybe.
Sorry about that. All right. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires.
Person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship, is devoid of false ego, and he can alone attain real peace.
Okay. Heather?
Oh, sorry.
That is the way of the spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God.
Oh, that's it. We've completed chapter 2. Oh, cool. And it's 8 o'clock, so we could go back and pick over some of these. Anyone have any requests? I like this one about the rivers flowing into the ocean, but we always go to that one. For me, that's like my desire. I always read that one.
So the last time we went through, this was when you mentioned Sadapula, the ISKCON desire tree.
Oh, Sadaputta.
Sadaputa. Okay. I was wondering why it didn't come up on Google.
Oh.
That was the verses somewhere like 9, 10, 11.
9, 10, 11?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, way early on. Okay. In the beginning of... Okay. Yeah, there was one devotee who called him Sadaputana.
Why's that? Why's that?
This guy would always mispronunciate words.
That's me.
Yeah, there was a lot of really good ones. Well, Laura, we just read the second half of chapter 2, so we're going to try to stay here in what we just read. But let's see if nobody comes up with anything. Then
I read number 49 today, and I like reading verses like that out loud because it immediately feels like I'm roasting myself or calling myself out, you know?
Oh,
You
really?
read something like those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. If you read it just on your own, you know, it's like theoretical and you can accept that, but when I read it out loud, I immediately feel like I'm just calling myself out.
Okay, roaching yourself? I never heard that
Roasting.
one. What was it?
Roasting, you know, like just making fun of.
Roasting. Okay. Well, everyone want to roast themselves reading text 49? Is everybody up to the challenge? Go ahead, Garrison, lay it on us.
O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers.
Okay. Shall we go into the purport?
Sure.
That's even like that's like kind of even, or I might be speculating here, but that's like even talking about wanting like adulation when you do something because you want somebody to praise you for it.
Yeah. Pratista.
Pratishta, yeah, adoration. To get things, yeah. Keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service. Okay, well that's encouraging. It gives you a procedure to keep abominable things away. And in that consciousness, surrender unto the Lord. Okay, I can do that. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. Okay, well, we still work, we get things, and we'll just offer them to Krishna. That sounds pretty good. Kind of been doing that. I'm hanging on to things, but I'm using most of them, so I don't feel so roasted by this. You need to get with the program, Garrison.
Yeah.
Just start using everything for Krishna. It's not that hard, and it is really fun too. It's not that bad. So Garrison, you brought it up, so let's read the purport. We lost Matthew. I guess he was just going to follow us to the end of the verse, of the end of the chapter. So purport, Eric, then Laura, then Heather, then Elijah.
One who has actually come to understand one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Lord gives up all engagements save working in Krishna consciousness. As already explained, Buddhi Yoga means transcendental loving service to the Lord.
Eric, Laura.
Such devotional service is the right course of action for the living entity. Only misers desire to enjoy the fruit of their own work, just to be further entangled in material bondage.
Heather.
Except for work in Krishna consciousness, all activities are abominable because they continually
Bind
bind
the worker.
the worker to the cycle of birth and death.
Elijah.
One should therefore never desire to be the cause of work. Everything should be done in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of Krishna.
Misers do not know how to utilize the assets of riches which they acquire by good fortune or by hard labor. One should spend all energies working in Krishna consciousness, and that will make one's life successful.
Like misers, unfortunate persons do not employ their human energy in the service of the Lord.
Misers. Kripana. That's the Sanskrit word for misers, and there it is in the verse. Kripana palahetava. Misers. Do you know any miserly people? Anybody? No? Okay. People that just gather stuff and they can't spend it. They just try to hang on to it. Okay.
Paper hoarders.
What's that?
I said to use today's analogy, like toilet paper hoarders.
Oh.
You want names, Mitrapu? I can start naming. I don't know if you want me to name all the people.
No, you don't. Oh, you've got a list. Okay, you don't need to list. I just wanted, like, let's talk about misers. Just so we know what's under discussion here in the verse. How can we compare that mentality? So you got stuff. What kind of stuff do we have? We've got resources. We got time. We got talents and skills. And if we just try to use them for ourselves, then we're misers. But if we employ them for the service of Krishna, then we can keep abominable activities far distant by devotional service. And in the purport, Prabhupada says the mentality of trying to enjoy things, that's abominable. Okay. Misers do not know how to utilize the assets of riches which they acquire by good fortune or by hard labor. So yeah, you may have seen people that have really good stuff, but like, no, we're saving that. We're not going to use that. We got to keep that clean and nice and fresh and new. For what? Just use it. Okay, and Eric, it seemed like you had a suggestion for a verse.
Oh yeah, for I think for verse 72, that one in particular, because I feel like the purport Srila Prabhupada kind of touches on like in the Sanskrit for that verse, the phrase Brahma Nirvanam is used, which I think some impersonalists might take that a certain way, but I like how Prabhupada kind of addresses that in.
Oh, okay. Read the translation then.
That is the way of the spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God.
The last line of the Sanskrit is Brahma Nirvanam Richchati. Yeah, one can achieve Brahma Nirvana, which he translates here as the spiritual kingdom of God. All right, so let's read that purport. Laura, start the purport to text 72.
72. All right. Let me just find it really quick. All right. Did you want me to read the verse as well?
No, they're just the purport.
Okay. One can attain Krishna consciousness or divine life at once within a second, or one may not attain such a state of life even after millions of births. It is only a matter of understanding and accepting the fact.
Heather? Katvanga Maharaj attained this state of life just a few minutes before his death by surrendering unto Krishna.
I don't know how to say that.
Katvanga Maharaj.
I'm sorry, I thought you started reading. Katvanga Maharaj attained this state of life just a few minutes before his death by surrendering unto Krishna. Nirvana means ending the process of materialistic life.
According
Okay,
to Buddhist,
your internet probably thought when you said Katvanga, it was probably saying, oh, you want me to cut off now? That's what it did. Go ahead, Elijah.
Sorry.
according to Buddhist philosophy, there's only one void after completion of this material life. But Bhagavad Gita teaches differently. Actual life begins after the completion of this material life.
For the gross materialist, it is sufficient to know that one has to end this materialistic way of life. But for persons who are spiritually advanced, there is another life after this materialistic life. Before ending this life, if one fortunately becomes Krishna conscious, he at once attains the stage of Brahma Nirvana.
There is no difference between the kingdom of God and the devotional service of the Lord, since both of them are on the absolute plane. To be engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord is to have attained the spiritual kingdom.
In the material world, there are activities of sense gratification, whereas in the spiritual world, there are activities of Krishna consciousness. Attainment of Krishna consciousness, even during this life, is immediate attainment of Brahman And one who is situated in Krishna consciousness has certainly already entered into the kingdom of God.
Brahman is just the opposite of matter. Therefore, Brahmastiti means not on the platform of material activities. Devotional service of the Lord is accepted in the Bhagavad Gita as the liberated stage. Therefore, Brahma Samiti is liberation from material bondage.
Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur has summarized the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita as being the contents of the whole text. In the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matters are karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga.
In the second chapter, right? Yeah. In the second chapter, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga have been clearly discussed, and a glimpse of Bhakti Yoga has also been given as the contents for the complete text.
Okay. Chapter 2, Ki Jai, Bhagavad Gita discussion group, Ki Jai. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.